He is also joining us again, but in a different part of Arkansas. Now, Mike, you're in Benton, Arkansas. What's the situation there this morning?
Hey, good morning. We are about 30 minutes down I-30 from Little Rock, Arkansas. Let's set the stage first. What we've seen here over the past 4 days in Little Rock, just under a foot of rainfall, officially 11.82. That is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That is the third wettest four-day period on the record. Records going back to 1875, so you go back 150 years, and they've only had two other four-day stretches this wet. So you're going to have flooding. And as far as overall, it was the 11th wettest day overall yesterday. Little Rock officially had 6.05 inches. And we can show you what it looked like as some of that came down. The noteworthy cell of the day or storm of the day was just after 11 a.m. here at Sherwood, about 10 miles north of Little Rock. As that squall line came through, it became a very wicked bow echo, knocking out power at one point yesterday, about 120,000 customers, and most of those in Saline and Pulaski counties. That's Little Rock and down here in Benton. Power is coming back on slowly. That 115,000 statewide has now dropped down to 70,000 customers. And here in Saline County, about 25% of customers are still without power. There is power here. We're on River Road. We're just off the Saline River. And what we've noticed this morning, and this is good news, just since we got here about 45 minutes ago, you can see how the river has backed off. Mike Hall, photographer, put the slim here. So it is going down. So it's cresting a little bit early and a little bit lower than they had forecast, not by much. Last check, the river gauge at 26.15 feet was supposed to crest at about 4 or 5 inches higher, so we're not complaining. This is not the highest crest on record by far, but it is the highest crest in 35 years, since 1990. So the Saline River is beginning to come down. Flood stage 18 feet, so it's more than 8 feet above flood stage, but it's going to come down rapidly. The forecast now brings it back below flood stage later on this evening. So for the homes and businesses around here, this is good news. What we're not seeing here, because it's dark, but we've walked around, there's a mobile home park around the corner, and from what we can tell, the homes are surrounded by the river water, but the water is not in the homes. And we hope to, later on this morning, once we get daylight, to give you a better view of what we've seen around the corner. So there you go. Things are looking better. The rainfall is over with, except for a few light showers this morning. It is a chilly morning, mid-40s, highs today around 50. It should be up around 70. And then tomorrow the sun comes back out. It's going to be back out all week, and a nice warming trend. Warming from the 60s on Monday and Tuesday in Little Rock, up to the 70s to near 80 by Wednesday and Thursday. So we're certainly past the worst of it here as far as rainfall goes, but the big issue now is getting these rivers down across not only Arkansas, but the entire Mid-South and Mid-Mississippi Valley.
Just trying to get the floodwaters to recede, but the good news is that we have much better conditions in store this week. Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel, thank you for that update. Joining us now is Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel, who was live for us yesterday in Sherwood. And this morning, Mike, you're in Benton, Arkansas, which is another community that is experiencing flooding just like Sherwood.
Yes, this is river flooding here, and this is the concern over the next several days, the next couple of days, certainly, as the rivers have to crest and come down. This river, the Saline River in Saline County, has crested this morning. As we arrived here about 4 o'clock Central, it crested. Now it's coming down officially at 4:30 Central, 25.98 feet. That is just a hair, just a smidgen below flood stage of major flood stage of 26 feet. It crested just above that, the highest crest we've seen in about 14 years. Now there's some smoke blowing into the shot here. We just had a house fire 1 block over. Fortunately, nobody was home, but I do want to show you the video. We sent it into Fox in New York, Fox Weather. Oh, we got it up. We got it up on screen. Okay, there we go. We turned it around. Thanks, guys, for the quick work back in New York. It's going to show you, but you can see the fire here. The home fully engulfed. We did hear some, it sounded like ammunition going off. I didn't see any propane tank or anything explode, but the house is a total loss. The best news of all, nobody was home in the house. It was really tough for the fire department to get over there because getting around here, the water is just a little too deep for their vehicles. I was able to go down the street and walk through a field to get the video. So again, house fire, maybe it was tied into the water and the electrical system. But again, nobody was home with that fire. We're just off the Saline River. I mentioned it has crested. The reason all these rivers have come up, incredible amounts of rainfall. Yesterday, Little Rock alone, a record rainfall for the date. How about 6.05 inches? That's a pretty wet day. And if you look back to 1875, 150 years, that is their 11th wettest day on record. So that's pretty phenomenal. And we're not talking about, a tropical system. And it is their third wettest four-day record on 4 days on record, going back to 1875, 150 years, 11.82 inches, so just under a foot of rain. And we had radar estimates across the Ohio River Valley, parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, and in the Mid-South of over a foot of rain and even 15 inches of rain based on radar estimates over into Kentucky, western Tennessee. So the key now is in those areas, the rain has ended and the air is drying out. In fact, starting tomorrow, the entire area that's been hammered with tornado watches, death from tornado, flooding, and high-risk flooding impacts, that's all done, and the sun comes out. First thing in the morning, you wake up to sunshine finally, and it's going to be sunny all this coming week with temperatures warming up from the 60s into the 70s to near 80s. So just a nice turn of events, but boy, it has been a rough 4 to 5 days in this part of the country. Finally, things are moving in the atmosphere, and this week ahead is going to be very, very quiet, severe weather-wise, once we get through today and tonight in the southeast and the Gulf Coast.
I mean, goodness, so much to unpack. And Mike, that house fire, just horrific to see, especially during the early morning hours of a Sunday morning. It's still dark and early out there in Arkansas. But yeah, I mean, you're thinking about the week ahead and the quieter weather, and that is exactly what this part of the country so desperately needs. Fox. And flooding, well, it remains a concern in the natural state once again today. And about 30 minutes south of Sherwood is where we find Fox weather storm specialist Mike Seidel, who is live for us in Benton, Arkansas this morning, monitoring the situation. And Mike, we finally are seeing the sun come up and we can see the scenes behind you much better. And the flooding, unfortunately, right along the Saline River.
It is definitely coming down. It peaked earlier at about 25.2 feet, just above the major flood demarcation line of 26 feet. So now just below major flood. We still have to get a lot of water back into the Saline River. It's going to do that rather rapidly based on the forecast, dropping about another 8 feet by later this evening. 8 feet, 18 feet, down 18 feet to 18 feet. That is the flood stage, minimal flood stage. So it goes below flood stage this evening. The water was up here earlier, so it is going back. You can see a little bit of the debris. In the distance, you can also see water screen right to screen left, and that's flowing into the Saline River, and that ends up in the Wachita River, and eventually I think it's the Red River, and then back Chafalaya into the Mississippi River. It all ends up in the Mississippi and the Gulf. So there's the trend. So the water is coming down. The reason we have the rivers up is all the rain we've had the past several days. In Little Rock, 4 days of rain, just over 11, almost 12 inches of rainfall, and it's their third wettest 4-day period on record going back 150 years. So that says something. No other 4 days, except for 2 other occasions, had more rain than Little Rock. And we had radar estimates of 15 to 20 inches of rain in other parts of the Ohio River Valley, lower Ohio River Valley, mid-Mississippi River Valley, and down into parts of Mississippi, parts of Tennessee, and the flood watches continue there. Now, all the flood watches in this area are going out in the next hour or so. That's because the rain is over. We just have a few spritzes, a little mist this morning. It is a chilly morning, a little below average in the mid-40s. And today, because of the lack of sun and just the colder air mass, our highs today will only get about 50. In fact, parts of northwest Arkansas have a frost advisory for Monday morning. Not quite that cold down here, Little Rock in points south. But the week ahead, plenty of sunshine, plenty of dry weather, and no severe weather. Finally, after 4 to 5 days of unrelenting torrential rains, destructive flooding, and the deadly tornadoes, we're going to get a nice long break once we get the severe weather off the southeast coast and the deep south later on today and tonight. So, Kendall, things looking up here on a cloudy, chilly Sunday. first Sunday in April, but the waters are receding here on the Saline River and on many other rivers in Arkansas. The water's coming down, which is good news, and no more rain in the forecast for a while. We'll take that and run with it.
Yeah,
and
that
we hope at some point, to get around the corner, you can see a couple mobile homes through the woods, and we checked earlier a couple of hours ago, and all we could see was water around the mobile homes, but not in the mobile homes because they're up on those small foundations. So that's good. That's good. As long as it stays out of the homes, you can let the water go away. So the ground's soggy, but at least your contents in your home is okay. And real quick, if we can cue up the fire video, I'm not sure if that's in the system, but this is the house fire that we showed you about an hour ago. We were sitting here getting ready for our shots. This was about 4:30 Central Time, 5:30 Eastern, and we looked right through the woods here, and we saw this glow. And then all of a sudden we saw the flames, and we're thinking somebody burning trash. No, got hold of 911. The fire department got out here. They had no easy access because of the flooding waters, and basically the house is a total loss. It burned itself to the ground. No propane tank exploded. I don't know if the house was using propane. We heard it sounded like ammunition going off. And the best news of all is nobody was home, Kendall, at the time, but the house is gone. It may have been tied into the flooding and the electrical system. We don't know for sure, just kind of speculating.
Wow. I mean, just hats off to you and your team for calling, 911 and alerting them of what was going on. It's just a crazy video to see that house just up in flames next to the raging river right beside it. So a lot going on in Benton County, Arkansas, but thankfully we do have some positive news, and that's also the case in other parts of the state as well. So Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel, thank you for that update this morning. Saturday, leading to areas of flooding. And flooding, it remains a concern in the National State once again today. And about 30 minutes south of Sherwood is where we find Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel, who is live for us in Benton this morning, right along the Saline River, which, Mike, I mean, it looks like you've moved slightly. I'm hoping that now we're in that mobile home park, which you've been telling us about so far this morning. But this is still right along the Saline River where we're experiencing flooding this morning.
We are now in the mobile home park because we have daylight. We can show you what's going on and what has happened. Some good news, as we've been talking all morning, the river is going down. It's going to go down pretty quickly through the afternoon and this evening, dropping below flood stage by later this evening. That's 18 feet. With that said, now it's about 25.5 feet. That's about a half a foot below major flood stage. This morning we got out here about 4:30 Central. That trampoline there was water under the trampoline, so you can see how far the water has gone down. Remember, when we talk about the river dropping a foot or 2 feet, it's vertical, not horizontal. So when you have very little change in elevation, if the water goes down 6 or 8 inches, it goes down much farther horizontally. So we go from there all the way out here. My call will swing around, and this is what we've been talking about. Water around these mobile homes, and this looks like a manufactured home. It's very, very muddy out here. The river's over in that direction. You can see the water flowing from right to left of the camera. And it's at least several feet deep out on the road there. And it's muddy, it's dirty. A little too early to worry about water moccasins because it hasn't really warmed up yet, but certainly this is not the ideal situation. Let's show you the water line on the lattice there. Can you see that, Mike, that water line on the lattice? So it's come down, it looks like about a foot in the vertical right there. We're also looking at the water line on that vehicle over there, or that may just be debris that's been pushed up against the SUV over there. But these homes were fine. Water did not get in these homes, as you can see, based on the foundation height, which is about 3 feet. So that's some, good news here. I don't think anybody is home. I think everybody did evacuate because of the situation. And this is all because of all the rainfall. Little Rock has had just under a foot of rain in 4 days, and that's their third wettest 4-day period on record. Their records go back 150 years. So this is quite the wet period. And it wasn't a tropical storm or a hurricane. And this is the highest the river's been since Hurricane Gustav back about 14 years ago. The weather today, cloudy, cool, a little drizzle, a little spritz here and there. Tomorrow the sun will come back out. It will be out all week long. So no issues this week with Rain, severe threat goes to 0 because the air is going to be cool and stable. In fact, cool enough, Kendall, for tomorrow morning, there's a frost advisory in northwest Arkansas. So that's how chilly it's going to be. But the bottom line is the air is much more stable, and this water will be gone later this afternoon. As much as we've seen it come down, it's going to go down another 7.5 feet by about 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. So everything is draining out nicely back into the river here in Benton, about 30 miles off to the south of Little Rock, southwest. One other thing we dealt with this morning was a house fire. Here's a video. This is about a block away. We saw the glow through the woods around 4:30 this morning, Central Time, and then all of a sudden the flames. And the fire department, the emergency vehicles, had a tough time. They couldn't really even get to the house. By the time they got to the house, it was fully engulfed in a total loss. Fortunately, nobody was home. There was no propane explosions or anything like that, but a total loss, just some sad news. But again, no occupants were at the house this morning, Kendall. So that could have been an offshoot indirectly from the water and the electrical lines. We don't know. I'm just kind of taking a stab in the dark. But this is the Saline River that way and going down towards the Ouachita River and eventually into the mighty Mississippi and the Gulf. As we go through the next couple of days, we're going to watch rivers come down across the Mid-South and the Gulf Coast area.
And Mike, I mean, when we're thinking about, again, the waters receding, which is going to be great to see, but unfortunately, you mentioned what might have been likely a cause of that house fire. I was just taking a look at the power outages in Arkansas, and we're still coming in about 67,000 customers. So it'll take time to get the power restored. But I'm curious, there's a hum in the background. I can hear it in your mic. Do you know where that sound is coming from and what that might be?
That's coming from the transformer around the corner, I believe. I don't know if we can see it. It's a transformer? Yeah, we can't see the transformer. It's around the corner. We've been hearing that all morning. So we're not quite sure what that means. I'm not a power crew, but I believe the power is on the street we're on. I think that the power is on. I'm not certain. There's a transformer here, but that's not the one making the noise. It's, I think, a transformer. And let me see here. I don't know if it's a transformer or some kind of an alarm. What do you think, Mike? We think it's a transformer. Well, we can't go around the other side. The water's too deep. So this is what we're going to get for now. But again, water is going down. That's what really counts in this area and across all of the areas that have been through this flooding and the severe weather and tornadoes the past 4 days.
Yeah, the water, we need to see that go down. But again, the fact that unfortunately folks without power, electricity doesn't mix. So stay safe out there. Mike, excellent job in Benton, Arkansas this morning.
Parts of the natural state today, and about 30 minutes out of Sherwood is where we find Fox Weather Storm specialist Mike Seidel, who's live for us in Benton this morning, monitoring the situation there along the Saline River. And Mike, it's clearly up and over its riverbanks, its banks there. I'm sure that's just how the entire area that you're in looks, and it looks like it's still raining there behind you too, yeah?
Yeah, just a little light shower coming on through right now, Nick. We're in, as you mentioned, Benton on the I'm going to keep saying Sabine because I've been on the Sabine River too with hurricanes and tropical storms. Saline River runs about 200 miles, enters into the Ouachita River from the mountains, dumps in there, and then it goes downstream through the Red River, Atchafalaya, and then into the Mississippi, into the Gulf. This is what's left of the flooding. There's still a lot of flooding here, but the water has gone down about 1.5 feet now. We're just under 25 feet. We crested about 26.5 feet, highest crest in 14 years, and that was major flood stage. So now we're in moderate flood stage, and it's going to be dropping rapidly based on the forecast back below flood stage this evening, which is 18 feet. So between now and about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, it's going to drop another 7 feet. The river's off in the distance. This pumping station is the noise, the hum we've heard through the morning hours, so it's not a transformer. Now that we can get around here, we can see it. It must be the pumps pumping water out of that widget or contraption over there. It just says River Street Pump Station. So that's all we can figure. That's why we've got the buzz there. But something is working, hopefully, to keep water out of that. The water continues to come down. This whole yard was underwater, and you can see the water line on the mobile home. Nobody was home. I think everybody got out of here yesterday before the river came up. It came up pretty quick. It's going to go down pretty quick, which is a good thing. It's not going to stay up for a couple of days. But you can see the water line right over here against the foundation, the aluminum there on the bottom of the house. And you can see some debris that got pushed up here from the river, just some sticks and dirt and pine chats. So good thing about all of this is the houses are in good shape. But let me show you what we saw this morning. We saw this first about 4:30 here in Benton. And look at the fire. This house is just down the street, and it was totally engulfed before the fire department could even get there. And they couldn't get there because they were coming down River Road, and they were trying to get around this corner here, and it's underwater. So, and it was deeper than by about another 1.5 feet. So they couldn't get around here. The fire was beyond that big tree in the distance, and the house is gone. Fortunately, nobody was home, and it may have been caused by the fact that we had flooding and electricity. That's never a good mix. So, Nick, things are getting better here. The water is going down quickly on the river. The rainfall, for the most part, is done. Little Rock had 11.82 inches, their third wettest 4-day stretch on record in 150 years. And tomorrow we look forward to seeing blue skies and sunshine, not only tomorrow, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and beyond. No severe weather from the SPC really anywhere in the country. Once we get through today and tonight along the Gulf Coast and Southeast, it's going to be a very, very quiet week. And those of us in the field will be home waiting for the next too soon, because it has been 4 or 5 days of unrelenting warnings and watches. We've had, I don't know what the latest death toll is, 16, I believe, and also the horrific flooding we've seen in some areas. Worse than here, where homes were flooded.
Yeah, I'm sure the folks there in Benton are ready to see some blue skies as well. Mike Seidel, appreciate the update, sir.
All right, so we want to keep our eyes of about 30 minutes south of Sherwood is where we Fox weather storm specialist Mike Seidel, who's live for us in Benton, Arkansas this morning. And Mike, you've done an excellent job all morning long, really kind of painting the picture for us, what it looks like in Benton, in an area that is unfortunately being impacted by flooding, all due in part by the Saline River.
Yes, and the Saline River is still rolling by, but the water has come down quite a bit since this morning. We can show you the water line. We showed you this earlier on the mobile home. Everybody here got out. There was no issues, and as far as we can tell, water did not get into the mobile homes, the manufactured home across the street, but you can see the water level. A lot of, it's just a lot of muck and mire now, and things are going to have to dry out. It's going to dry out in a big way this week. Thankfully, 4 or 5 days of sunshine, lower humidity, no severe weather, no more flash flooding, just a few spritzes today. It's a chilly day by Little Rock standards here in early April. Temperature's 45. The average low is about 50, and the average high is in the low 70s. We'll be back there Wednesday and Thursday. The river's back there. You can see the water flowing, not as much as you could, but it's flowing that way downriver towards the Ouachita River. Eventually it ends up, you guessed it, in the Mississippi and Gulf of Mexico. We had a fire this morning before sunrise. I think we were the first ones to see it because we were the only ones out here at 4:30 this morning, Central Time. It's on the other side of the tree. The house is a total loss, but we can show you the video we shot this morning. This is about 5:36. The fire department tried to get in here. They couldn't. By the time they got here, it was already fully engulfed by the time we saw it. Nobody was home. The occupants were not there. They were trying to get around this corner here. It was about 2 feet deeper at that point, trying to get down River Road and around the corner, but they couldn't do that. So they actually hooked up the hose about a block down. I guess it was about 100 yards, 75 to 100 yard run of the fire hose to put that fire out. But fortunately, no explosions as far as propane gas goes. It's all because of all the rainfall. Radar estimates of up to 15 inches in the area. Officially, Little Rock getting 11.82 in 4 days. As I said earlier, third wettest 4-day stretch on record. And if you look at every calendar day since 1875, that's 150 times, 365, millions of days. What do you end up with? You end up with the 11th wettest calendar day on record. So there you go. Rain is done. The water's going down. We still have some more rivers that have to crest in the state of Arkansas and in neighboring states like Kentucky or western Tennessee. But after that, it's all but sunshine, wall-to-wall sunshine for the rest of the week in the area that has been impacted now virtually every day since Tuesday with either severe weather, tornadoes, flooding, or some of both in some areas.
Yeah, Mike, the unrelenting storms just won't quit, but thankfully we can see an end in sight, and boy, do we sure need it. Mike Seidel, live for us in Benton, Arkansas this morning. Thank you.
Natural states, that's where our storm specialist Mike Seidel is. He's in Benton, Arkansas. And yeah, Mike, the water is starting to recede. It looks very, very muddy. It's going to be muddy and mucky for quite some time moving forward.
Well, luckily, we're not in the throes of summer heat and humidity, so it's not going to be, you know that smell. It's not going to be like that because it's going to be kind of chilly. Right now, it's only in the mid-40s. We should be in the low 70s today here in Little Rock in mid-April, early to mid-April. And over the next couple of days, we're going to be in the 40s with highs in the 60s. So everything will dry out, but we won't have that hot, humid weather where the overnight lows, are 75, the afternoon high, like 100 or higher. The water this morning, when we got here about 4:30, 5 o'clock Central, was past the Jeep, about 15 yards past the red Jeep. So you can see how far it's come down on aptly named River Road. And there's where the water remains as it continues to back off on the Saline River. Saline River. Saline. I guess I had too much salt in my breakfast. The river goes that way, and it goes down to the Ouachita River, and that eventually, as you can imagine, all ends up in the mighty Mississippi and then the Gulf. The house around the corner here, you can't see it because it's gone, burned basically down to the ground earlier, but we were here and were the first ones to see it. It was about 4:30 here in Benton, Arkansas, and there's the video of the fire. Not a whole lot of wind, fortunately, and no structures near it. The best news of all is that nobody was home at the time. The occupants were not home. The fire department tried to get in there to put it out. They eventually did, but they tried to come right around this corner where I'm standing. But the water at that point was about 2.5 to 3 feet deep. So it's come down at least a couple of feet on the gauge officially. And they ran the fire hose from the hydrant down there about 175 to 100 yards. So what do we got to look forward to? Just some spectacular weather. No severe threat, no flood threat after we get through today in the southeast. The only flood threat that remains now in most of these areas that have been hammered by severe weather and in some cases catastrophic flooding is the fact that these rivers have to come down. The flash flooding is over with. There are still some minor road closures in Arkansas, but as the rivers come down, everybody will get hopefully back to normal. Fortunately, these homes here were not impacted. The water did not get high enough to get into these mobile or manufactured homes, and nobody was home this morning, so I assume they evacuated yesterday. So, Kendall, it's going to be looking up quite a bit as we get into tomorrow. We'll wake up, the sun will come out, the skies will be blue, and this water will be gone. Expected to go below flood stage 18 feet. That's about another 6.5 feet by later on this evening. So this will all look different. It looks already, as you saw, how much better it looks since 4 or 5 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, that's true. We have been checking in with you since early this morning, and noticeable receding. So that's the good news. Better news that the weather improves heading into tomorrow. Mike Seidel out in Benton, Arkansas. Thank you, sir.
Taking this all in, seeing the water rise and then drop back down, this ebb and flow. Mike, if you're with us, tell us what the latest is from the location that you're standing right now. I know you had a little shower earlier on. Has everything subsided from the rain?
Yeah, in fact, it's brightening up. We may actually see a little blue sky before sunset today. Not a lot of sunshine, but we've got more sunshine than you can handle. No, you can handle a lot of sunshine after what we've been through in this part of the world. Starting tomorrow morning and right on through the rest of the week, temperatures will be coolish to start and then warm up. But can you imagine this in the middle of the summer, the heat, humidity? I've been in the areas, and boy, it just never dries out. But we've got some nice, dry, cool Canadian air coming in, and it will be just about as good as it gets early to mid-April in this part of the world. And then it will warm up back to 75 to 80 by the end of the week. Right now, about 45 in Little Rock, The average high today is 71. This is the Saline River, or the overflow of the Saline River. It goes back this way, heads down to the mighty Mississippi through about 3 other rivers: Ouachita, Red, Atchafalaya, I believe, then to the Mississippi, then to the Gulf. Okay, with that out of the way, the river continues to come down. It's come down a couple of feet. It's still now running just above 24 feet. 26 is major flood stage. We were 26 earlier today. The highest crest we've seen since 2011. That's 14 years. Now it comes down, forecast to go below flood stage, which is 18 feet this evening. So it's going to drop another 5-6 feet between now and say 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. So all of this will be out of the way. By midnight tonight, this road will not be underwater. And it's come down quite a bit road-wise. We'll show you this again. Water right here. And this morning it was up past the Jeep. So this is all underwater. In fact, right here this morning, the fire department tried to get around here because we had a house fire and they couldn't get around here. So they had to plug their hose in at a hydrant up the street, a block up, and then bring it all the way around. We'll show you the video of the house fire right now. We can't see the house through the trees. And the other thing is the house pretty much burned to the ground. It was fully engulfed. We got here about 4:30 Central Time, and we saw this glow through the woods. And then we saw the flames and 911 action, and then they came out here as quickly as they could. But like I said, this was too deep here. They didn't want to risk. The police couldn't get through. The fire trucks couldn't get through. So they parked and just dragged that hose all the way over there. So fortunately, by the way, nobody was home. The occupants were not home. Spin around now. We'll look down towards the river and look at these homes. Mobile home here, manufactured home across the street. And Mike Hall, I don't know, we're trying to show you the water line over there. Over by that patio set, between that and the outdoor above-ground pool. You can see the water got up about a foot or so this morning earlier before sunrise, and now it's coming down. So these buildings here, these homes, were not hit by the floodwaters. The water did not get inside the homes. Everything else back this way is fine. There's still a lot of standing water in the yards. Little Rock with 11.82 inches of rain in 4 days. That is their third wettest 4-day period on record. And their records, I was really taken back about their records and how far their climate set goes back. Now, on the East Coast, like New York City, I believe 1878, Philadelphia, you know, the big cities in the Northeast. Little Rock's records go back to 1875. Yeah, 150 years. So that's quite an astonishing number when you figure the past 4 days, only 2 other stretches since 1875 have been wetter. And that's what happens. All the water runs down to the various tributaries and then out eventually to the Mississippi. By the way, the Arkansas River in downtown Little Rock, no problems there. We still have some rivers north of Little Rock up in the Ozarks, along with parts of Kentucky and Tennessee that have not crested. In fact, we're looking at another location for tomorrow where a river is supposed to crest. Again, the crest is important, but it's also where the impact. Some rivers get to major flood stage and no homes are impacted because there's a levee or it's farmland. Nothing's been built right at the river's edge. Then some rivers get to, say, moderate flood stage, and then you have water in homes. So it all varies based on location and what kind of construction you have near the river itself. So we're going to check out a couple of locations for tomorrow morning's coverage here in the state of Arkansas. So Ari and Zach, that's how we sum it up here. Water's going down, skies are brightening, the weather's going to be beautiful, and for the first time in 4 to 5 days, we will not have any severe weather or flash flooding or any rain at all here in Arkansas, Memphis, Nashville, Paducah, Hopkinsville, all those areas that have had a very rough week of weather last week and into this morning.
Yeah, the front's finally moving. It's a really good thing to see. I mean, still moving kind of slowly, but at least it's not stalling anymore. Yeah, it's a very good thing to see. All right, Mike, thanks a lot. I guess we're transitioning from a flash flooding event to more of a river flooding event over the next few days. We'll check back in with Mike in just a little bit. So, you know, last night when Zach and I got to work and we anchored for 4 hours together last night, there was a slew of flash flood warnings all over the place, pretty much lined up exactly with that stalled out front. There were like 50 plus warnings. Pretty much all those warnings are gone now, yet you're still standing in what appears to be floodwater. Can you explain to people kind of the transition from the flash flooding to the river flooding?
Yeah, sure, Ari. Well, flash flooding occurs quickly. It comes up, it goes down. That's why we call it flash flooding. And when you try to cover flash flooding, I can tell you from a meteorologist's perspective over the years, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. Go there, you get there, the water's gone. Go there, the water's gone. So, which is a good thing about flash flooding. It comes up and goes down literally 30 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 hours. Some places it rains really hard. I remember being in Port Aransas near Corpus, and it rained an inch or two an hour for 3 or 4 hours, and basically all the streets, it was this deep. Once the rain stopped, it drained away. So the drainage system can only handle so much rainfall in a period of time, much like we talk about the pumps in New Orleans. So that's the flash flooding. The river flooding is caused by all the rainfall draining through the tributaries, the creeks and streams into the major long stem rivers. For instance, here we're talking about the Saline River going into the Ouachita River and eventually down into the Mississippi and the Gulf. In this case, the river is coming down. Now, not as quickly as a flash flood. Many times in a flash flood, the water will come up 8, 10 feet in literally, 10 or 15 minutes when you have these narrow creeks and streams. And you've seen them in the West, those dry washes, and it's basically a torrent of water, mud, and rock coming down those mountain and hillsides. Here, though, we don't have so much elevation right here in Benton, but we did have a lot of rainfall. Little Rock with almost a foot of rain in 4 days, their third wettest 4-day period in 150 years. So we have the Saline River, which is getting back towards its banks. This was about 2.5 feet deep this morning at sunrise. The river crested just above the major flood stage of 26 feet. Now it's down around 24 feet. So now it's in moderate stage. You get down to below 24 feet, it's out of moderate stage. Flood stage is 18 feet, and it's forecast to get down to 18 and then drop below it sometime later on this evening. So we're going in the right direction at a pretty quick pace, but you can see all the mud left behind. By the way, that is not the river out there, that's a pond. So that normally is a pond. Looks like there's a gentleman out there on a little island out there fishing. I don't know if you can see that. Mike Hall, can you see that gentleman? Is he fishing out there?
For so long.
Looks like it. And he's out there on a little island. Anyway, the river is on the other side through the woods, not far through the woods. And this water is all draining that way. What we're seeing here, it's draining into the pond, and then it's draining through the woods into the Saline River. The other issue we had this morning, unfortunately, a fire. We got here about 4:30 this morning. We smelled the smoke. We saw the glow through the woods. We were about 150 yards away from the fire. And this is the video we shot from earlier this morning, and the entire structure was engulfed. By the time we could really even get a hold of 911 and get the fire department here, they couldn't get right to the location because of the flooded roadways. So they had to run their fire hoses about 100 yards from the fire plugs around the corner and now back out live. This is what's left of the home. Very sad story. And we just saw the neighbor who just came home and didn't know anything about it and was like, what happened? He looked over the fence, didn't see the roof of the house, came around and was like, oh my gosh. So at this point, we don't even think the owner knows that she has lost her home. She evacuated like everybody else in this neighborhood and went to friends and family. She's in the area at her sister's house. And thankfully, nobody was hurt, nobody was home, and hopefully she's got homeowners insurance. So Ari and Zach, part of the sad story here is the house, maybe the water and electricity, which don't mix, caused the fire. We don't know. We have, we're just really speculating. Otherwise, everything's draining away. We have excellent weather coming in starting tomorrow with the sun coming back out for the rest of the week. No more threats of rain or severe weather. And we get a break finally after unrelenting barrage of just incredible weather. I mean, we had a high-risk severe threat and a high-risk flash flood risk on the same day in some of the same areas. The odds of that happening aren't very high, very, very low.
Yeah, absolutely. One question for you. I know, obviously, the fire devastating that home and unfortunate for that family. It didn't seem as though the water crested to a point to actually affect any of the other infrastructure around. There's some debris that I see strewn across, but it didn't seem that the other homes actually had true water damage.
You mean this house here or the houses we showed earlier?
The houses you showed earlier, yeah. It seemed like it only came up to a foundation, even though we're talking about some of the highest levels in 20 years.
Yeah, since 2011. Yeah, the water here was right up to the foundation. In fact, the fire was reflecting off the water this morning. So, yes, the house next door, they're fine. The other areas, the other houses, that there are 2 or 3 that were impacted by the floodwaters as far as water getting around them. But you're exactly right, Zach. No water getting into those structures, and we can be thankful for that. That's not the case, obviously, in many areas from Kentucky into Arkansas, Missouri, parts of Tennessee. There has been water going into homes. In fact, yesterday we had some water rescues in West Memphis. So this area was fortunate that the river didn't come up even another foot or so, and we would have had water in these homes down by the river. But the thing is, there's not a lot of homeowners, or I should say a lot of homes near the river here. There's a big floodplain, and sometimes you end up with a very serious flood, and you lose a lot of homes to floodwaters. The homes don't go away, but once the river water or whatever gets in the home, it's remediation. You got to take out the drywall. It's almost like rebuilding.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for all of the insight. That's Mike Seidel from Benton, Arkansas. And it's actually great news that those folks heeded all of the warnings and were able to evacuate and get to safety. I know, obviously, with the fire situation, it was something of consideration. But we're not through exactly yet with the dangerous, severe